Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
People buying their products, their jerseys and hats are women.
Yeah.
And that's why they're pushing this. Aren't we great? Let's do flag football. Let's get women involved because we're the ones that control the money and buy the stuff for our boyfriends and wives and whoever we're buying them for.
A lot of men are not going to go out and buy jerseys for themselves.
No.
But the women in their lives will go buy them and give them to them for birthdays and Christmas and right.
Right, and look at all the ads you see on the NFL. Now they're doing their own little PR things with girls playing. And remember the days when you could watch an NFL game and there'd be cheerleaders all over the place? Every other shot was a cheerleader. You don't see that anymore, do you? Because the NFL realized that was bad PR, that it was offending women. And I don't mind. You want to put some hot guys, scantily dressed? You can show them to me on the sideline. Just be fair,
Right.
So NFL is not doing that. You don't see the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders as much as you did, do you?
No, you don't.
So they know who's paying for things.
Yeah. Though they're getting it, they're coming around. And honestly, the NFL is pretty smart. Now they're a little slow, I grant you that, but they've been pretty smart in terms of the outreach that they've done. And they did a thing not too long ago where they had a class or a set of classes that women could go to learn about football.
Right, to learn about football.
Right.
And a lot of women know about football.
Yeah.
But as said, I was an official for 40 years.
Yeah.
I retired from football in 2019. That's what I miss, by the way. I don't miss TV.
Yeah.
I miss football. I miss Friday night. I just went to, and I'm embarrassed to even say these words, I just went to my 50th high school reunion in New Jersey.
Wow.
And they let me flip the coin at the Friday night football before our, big party we had. And I was so excited, I forgot how much I missed it. I forgot, they played the national anthem and the kids were out there and we're all standing at attention. And I went, this is what I miss.
Yeah.
I don't miss baseball so much. If I never get hit with another baseball, that will be fine.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed when you go to a pro game and there's a line drive into the seats and people are reaching for it. I'm hiding under the chair. I've been hit probably with 100 baseballs in my life, foul balls, stray pitches, whatever. And umpires aren't allowed to stop the balls. It's not like if you grew up playing, you're going to stop it. We're not allowed to touch them.
Right.
So they have to hit us.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. So I'd rather get run over by 3 football players than be hit with a single baseball.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. You've been hit with one, I bet.
I have actually. Yeah. So, when my son, who's now 25, was a freshman in high school, they came to me, the founder of the charter school system that the high school was a part of, came to me and asked me if I would join the board. And I had a radio show back then, and I had him on my show as a regular guest, the founder. And he came to me and asked me if I would join the board of directors, and I told him, of course I would, And he said, and by the way, we really need an announcer in the booth for our home football games. Would you consider doing that? And I said, I will. I'll consider it. So I went out and hung out with the guy that was the announcer, and he was absolutely terrible.
They tend to be.
He was terrible. And he was so unbelievably convinced that he needed to stay the announcer for the team, that I was basically his assistant for a season and a half. And it was actually not a bad thing because my son was a freshman playing JV football. And when he was down there playing football and I was in the booth, I was cross-eyed and drooling the entire time. Because when you spend your entire life protecting a child, then they put pads on and they get out there and there are people taking cheap shots at them and it's hard. It's hard to it's hard to put together a coherent sentence anyway, but it's really hard to put a coherent sentence together when your heart is up in your throat and you're breaking out into sweat and you got veins popping out of your forehead and, you're just worried sick. Right. So I got to a place to where I just basically asked him, I said, I'll do it, but I'm not calling my son's games. There's no way. Right. And so I didn't call his games. I was a spotter and I was in the booth and I helped. But the next season he didn't play. He decided one season was enough for him and he quit football. And so the next year I became their announcer and I've done it for 11 seasons now. And I still do it today. So what the Friday Night Lights thing is a real thing.
It is a real thing. I miss
nobody on the planet gets more excited about Friday Night Lights than I do.
Yeah, okay. I'm
some
sorry.
of our games are on Saturday.
Yeah, we have, because we don't have enough officials, we have varsity games Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you because you're a football guy. How many
Yeah.
referees are on a football field?
Well, we have 4 officials. We have a referee. We have I'm serious. We have two side judges, and then we have an umpire.
Again, how many referees are on the field?
Oh, 1.
Yes,
There's
thank
only
you.
one, yeah.
Nobody knows that.
I do, yeah.
Here's my first 14 years as an official. I was a wing. I was a side judge.
Yeah.
And or our linesman kept the chains. And every year I would get thrown off crews because the guys would say, we're never going to get the big games with you on our crew because you're a woman. It was the same crap I dealt with in TV. And they were right. I hated them for it. So one year they said, anybody who'd like to make a crew, referee a crew, stand up and other officials will come to you. I'm in a meeting with 400 officials and stood up and said, I'm going to be a referee. And there's silence. And because honestly, most officials don't want to be the referee because it's like you're the glorified secretary, but whatever happens with the crew, it's your fault.
Yeah.
So on the whole rest of my career, I was the referee and crew chief.
Wow.
And I love putting on my white hat and having that R on my back. Even though I'd walk out on fields and when the coaches got to know me, it wasn't a big deal. But when there was a new coach, my partners would start to laugh. They go, Annie, there's the look, look. And the look was a coach staring at me going, they couldn't send a real referee. I mean, it happened. And they would come over and they wouldn't even talk to me. I'm the white hat. I'm taking the notes. And they talk to my partners. And my partners would go, you have to talk to her, sir.
Yeah.
And it was never got any better, sadly. But that is what I miss, Friday night football.
So referees and I don't necessarily have the best relationship.
There.
Well,
I'm a bit biased.
I can be a little partisan, and they want me to be neutral. And
because you are part of the crew. It's like the guys that hold the chains. They're usually kids on the team, on the home team. They can't cheer. They're not allowed. They're part of the officiating crew.
Well, you're on the opposing team's sideline.
Oh, hell yeah. And then we have fights.
Yeah.
But the idea is you as an announcer, because I've been in these situations before where the announcer sounded partisan, and that's a big problem for us because it gets the crowd all worked up. And, I've had police escorts to my car. I've been spit on. I've had my tires knifed. So we don't need any more aggravation.
Yeah.
So I understand why they might have given you a hard time.
I'm a homer. I'm a homer. It's as good as it gets. I'm so proud of our kids,
I know, but you have to be careful.
But I do. I like this last season, I was warned twice. And, one time one of the refs actually accused me of inciting.
That's the problem.
The other team.
Whether you meant it or not.
Well, all I said was that it took half of their defense to take our runner down, to tackle our running back. And it was true. It was half of their defense. Okay.
But you do understand.
I know, but that was factually correct, right? I didn't say, look how awesome our running back is. It took half their defense to tackle him. What I said was the running back was number 2, right? I call him the one-man wrecking crew, right? And Nicholas Patterson's his name. And I said, number 2, one-man wrecking crew, Nicholas Patterson with the carry. And half of the defense made the tackle. That's what I said. I didn't say, anything bad about the defense, but he accused me of taunting. And so, we got a
Did
complaint
he
filed.
flag you?
Huh? No, they didn't flag,
Okay.
but we
There
got a
was something,
complaint filed, and he said the next game that I announced that I do that on, he's going to flag us. And I'm like, okay. So the next game that he was the ref, I went down and shook his hand and introduced myself. And I said, I just need to ask you, what I said was factually correct. I wasn't trying to make the other team, I wasn't trying to incite the other team or taunt them or any of that kind of thing. This is literally what I said. And one of the other officials, the side judge that was there, walked up and said, "You know what, ref? Honestly, sir, he's saying the correct thing. He's telling you the truth." And the ref ended up apologizing to me and telling me that he was having a bad night that night. And he was yelling at everybody.
it could be that a lot of times you've been down on football fields. A lot of times things are happening that the
Oh, yeah.
general people don't hear or
Yeah.
see. And our job is to make sure it doesn't become a mess.
Well, it's a
And
de-escalation. It's a
yeah, and
de-escalation,
so
right?
he went. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's probably why he asked you to cease and desist.
Yeah, well, that's all he was doing. I just didn't want to get flagged for saying something that was factual.
But
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
the next time that happened, and there were literally six players in on the tackle, I just said there were six defenders in on that stop for that team, and left it alone, right? And he was okay. So, but I made sure I went down and talked to him about it, because I'm not trying to upset people. I'm not trying to upset the other side. I wasn't trying to brag about our running back. I did say at one point that he refuses to go down, which I sort of regretted saying, and I sort of stopped saying it after because you say it and then you go, right? You know this because you were an announcer, right? So anyway, yeah, it's just crazy.
yeah, a lot. There are a lot of things in motion when you're on a football field. It's not like baseball where you follow the ball. That's where everything's happening. In football, there's 22 people coming in, plus
Yeah.
the people on the sidelines and the coaches. And I don't think the average fan understands how difficult it is to get it right. They also don't understand that when we don't throw a flag, that's also a call.
Yeah.
It's calls and no calls. They're all the same. We make hundreds of calls, no calls in the game. And it's constant concentration. And no, we don't do it right every time. But I don't know of a single official that doesn't want to do it right every time.
Well,
sometimes we're tired. Sometimes,
Nope.
like your guy, we're
Yeah.
having a bad night, or we don't
Nobody's
feel
perfect.
good.
Nobody's
You know?
perfect.
Well,
Nobody's
but we're
perfect.
supposed to be. We're
Well,
never
and
supposed to be pitched. We're
that
never
team-
supposed,
Yeah, that team on the other side was giving our kids the business. So when they would make a tackle, they would hit them in the face with a forearm. When they would make a tackle, they'd poke their eye out. When they were making a tackle, they'd shove them they'd hit them in
And what were your players doing?
nothing.
Oh,
Nothing.
okay.
No, I'm not joking. I was watching. I was being careful.
I'm just saying that down on the field, and when that stuff starts to happen, that's like officials go to like DEFCON 4,
Yeah.
because we're like, if this ends up a mess,
Yeah.
I'm going to be up all night writing reports.
Yep.
Okay. And as the referee, that's my job. I'm like, I don't want to write any reports, people. Let's keep a lid on this. Let's, knuckle down here and make sure that we're keeping everyone safe.
Yeah.
Because amateur sports, high school sports, college sports, it's all about keeping people safe.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
agree with that.
NFL. And so my job is to make sure no one is harmed. And that's what people don't seem to understand. The other thing that drives me crazy, not that you asked, but how high school coaches and fans have no idea what the rules are.
Yeah.
They'll be screaming, that pass was uncatchable. I'm like, that's not a rule here. That's a Sunday rule. This
Right.
is Friday. We
Right.
have different rules. And
Right.
and maybe you should. I'm the one that had to read the rule books and I had to take a test every year and had to get above a 90, a national football test. Did any of them take the test? No, the coaches don't take it, and they think NFL rules are the same as high school rules. And that's what starts craziness happening. But as an official, our job is to make sure everyone's safe and that we do the best we can and be as unbiased as possible and walk off the field feeling like, well, we did our job. Did we get 100% of the calls right? Of course we didn't. But we maybe got 98, and that's a pretty good day at the office.
Well, I felt pretty good afterwards because our coach called me, and he's one of the most level-headed people you've ever met in your life. He called me afterwards and he said, listen, the athletic director is going to be calling you because there was a complaint by the ref about you. And I just want you to know something. I don't want you to change one bit. You're doing absolutely everything right. I don't believe that what he's saying is justified, and you need to not change at all. You are our guy. And I really appreciated that. But it even motivated me more to go down and shake the guy's hand at the next game that he called, because I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. You know,
That's
I'm not
exactly what you
I'm
should have
not
done.
the ref's enemy. I'm the guy up in the box going, okay, we've got a call. And the ref doesn't have, with the exception of one game that I've done in 11 years, the ref doesn't have a PA system. He doesn't have
Oh, no,
microphones,
Mike.
right?
Okay.
So he's doing signals, and I'm literally saying dead ball, false start, offense, right? I'm literally reading what he's saying and I'm announcing
That's
it
why
so
we do
everybody,
that.
yeah, so that everybody knows what it is,
Right.
right? And they appreciate that, you know, and they tell me that they appreciate that. And now we've gotten to a point to where these guys show up and they're like, oh my goodness, Mike, we're so glad. We were so excited when we saw you guys on our schedule because we knew you were going to be the announcer. We're so excited to do this. And, you know, right. These guys and I have a really, really good relationship. So that's one of the reasons why when he filed that complaint, it was like, what? You know what I mean? But it's true. I get a little fired up. That is very true. That Friday Night Lights thing is a real thing. There's adrenaline there. There's
Oh, I know.
adrenaline there, right?
I
I
know.
mean, you know, there was the first game that Michael was a freshman playing JV his first season. And there was a time that I wasn't announcing yet. I was running the chain gang. And I was in charge of the chain gang. So they were supposed to do what I said, right? And I explained to him, I said, listen, when the play comes our way, drop your sticks and get out of the way, because they're in pads and they're coming full speed and
And
you're
it hurt.
gonna get killed, right? Move, right? There was a part of me, I used to play football, right? There was a part of me that stalled for a second. Like I wanted to be in on the contact. It was really sick. And it was like,
Yes.
right? All of a sudden I realized what was going on, you know, and I got out of the way, but it was like, geez, you know, there's something about being on that field and all that action taking place and wanting to be, you know, your adrenaline starts flowing and you want to be a part of it again. You want to be 18 again. You know what I mean? So anyway, it was cool. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it really is a real thing. Okay. So you do broadcasting, sports broadcasting, right? You're a referee for all those years.
Mhm.
Then what happens?
Well, when I was pushing 40,
Mhm.
I suddenly couldn't get a job anywhere in the country
Yeah.
because I wasn't pretty enough to be in front of a camera anymore.
Well, I think you're pretty enough to be in front of the
Ah,
camera.
you're sweet. But when
You're on
they
my camera.
yeah, well, when the target audience is 18 to 34-year-old males, the idea is when you're over 35, no one's looking at you anymore. And I tell that story because people go, "No." I said, "Yes, that is exactly how it is." You know, because they didn't, they don't hire you for your intelligence or your sports knowledge. And because I mentioned that, I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
When I was at ESPN, I anchored Sportscenter, and I'd been officiating for years. And one night, a production assistant comes into the newsroom. We're on the set,
Mhm.
and we're coming out of a commercial break. And usually you get to see your highlights before you go on and you put them in your own words because we have production assistants who cut the highlights and bring them to your desk.
Right.
So I unfortunately sometimes games end late and you're
Mhm.
already on the air.
Sure.
So this kid comes running in and slides some highlights to me, and the red light went on. And I looked at the highlights and went, "Oh, now let's go to Wrigley Field." And the first shot was a fan getting hit in the front row, and it said, "Oh, a fan at Wrigley Field gets hit with a foul tip." Now, I knew that was wrong,
Right.
but I had to go to the next highlight. And my whole time, my brain's going, crap, I said a foul tip and that's incorrect. So at the end of every sports center, there's something called a post-mortem.
Oh yeah.
Everybody involved in the show goes to a big conference room. We sit around a table. We talk about what went well, what went poorly, what can we do better.
Right.
So I raised my hand and I pointed at the young production assistant, Rich, and I said, Rich, I need some, I need you to understand something about that first play. And he said, yeah, the foul tip. I said, well, yeah, but that's a problem because it wasn't a foul tip. It was a foul ball.
Right.
And he goes, well, what's the difference? I went, well, foul ball goes into dead territory. It's a dead ball, which
Right.
means if I'm stealing second base, I have to go back.
Right.
Okay. But a foul tip is a ball that goes from the bat to the catcher's glove, is caught. Sometimes it can go to the pitcher, but that
It's a
never
strike.
happens. And they go like this and they say strike, but it's a live ball.
Right.
If I'm stealing home, the umpire has to wait. We have to see if we have a play at home.
Mm-hmm.
There's silence. There's 12 of us sitting around this table. Usually everybody talks at once and they're all staring at me. And I said, the kid got mad and stood up and he goes, you're just being a picky bitch.
Oh, geez.
And I went, no, I'm an umpire.
Right.
And I know the difference. And some people out there know I'm an umpire and I don't want to make that kind of mistake.
Right.
He stomped out. Not one person defended me at the All Sports Network, right? And the next day I got called into my boss's office and I was told to apologize to Rich because I hurt his feelings.
Oh, no.
I never raised my voice. All I said was a foul ball and a foul tip are two
different things.
things.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. They
Wow.
were angry that I questioned anybody.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was common, that kind of thing.
Wow. That's crazy.
I know.
So, after 40 years, or you're approaching 40 and you're not able to get a job, right? Then what happens?
I was in the middle of a divorce. I was $33,000 in debt.
Mhm.
And the house we were renting in Connecticut was foreclosed upon.
Wow.
I opened my door to a sheriff because the man who owned the house, who I rented it from for almost 2 years, never paid the mortgage.
Wow.
And the sheriff said, you have 24 hours to get out.
Yeah.
And I went, what?
Yeah.
And so my contract had not been renewed. And that's a different story. Also had to do with baseball, I think.
Mhm.
But we put everything in storage. I had 2 big dogs and 4 cats. And
we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.